So in this video, we're going to focus on the fundamentals of uploading a project from Visual Studio, a Hello World project from Visual Studio, developing that project in Visual Studio, and uploading it to Canvas to submit, let's say, for an assignment. Now, when we first start any assignment in Visual Studio, any assignment for programming, the first thing we need to do is get an idea of what we need to do before we even open up Visual Studio. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up PowerPoint. And so I have PowerPoint here. And once PowerPoint opens, I'm just going to go ahead and click a new file. Let me just go File, New here, and click on a blank one. So now I have this blank file here. And my idea here is, let's say, to create a Hello World program that when the user presses something, it says Hello World. So the first thing I need to do is go over the logic here. So the logic is, in fact, that an application starts. That application checks to see if someone activated Hello World. If they did, it displays or prints Hello World. If they didn't, the application continues. Now, there's a way I can represent this inside of PowerPoint. If I just go here, I can go to shapes, and then I can go down here, as you can see, flowchart shapes. So I want to go ahead and take this one right here, this rectangle here, and I'm going to select that and drag that out. And then I'm going to go to insert, and I'm going to go to shapes again, and I'm going to take this one right here, this diamond, and I'm going to go ahead and stretch that one out like that. So I just dragged it out. In this one, I'm going to change the color of this, so I just want this white. I'm going to go over here, click on the styles, and put that there. So now once I select this, I can just type in there. So I'm going to say app starts. And this represents the logic for when the app starts. Now down here raises a question. And the question is, hello world. Or let's print hello. Now this is a question. So the logic goes, the application starts and it asks the question, did the user want to print hello? And I'm going to put an arrow here just so you can know that this comes from this one straight to this one. So I have that arrow there. And now I have to put another arrow. So I'm going to take that arrow and copy and paste it, or go here and just select another arrow. Drag that over here. And another arrow. And drag it over here. So just so you can know, in PowerPoint, when you select a shape, another menu comes up here called Shape Format, and that's where you can get these. You can also get these inside of the shape element here in the home. Alright, so I have this here, and this will be, let's say, yes. So I'm going to put another box here. Instead of making another box, I can select this box, copy and paste it. And I'm going to put that down here, and I'm going to resize this. So this will be yes. And I'm going to take this one and put it over here, and that would be no. Alright, so if they want to say hello, then over here, I'm going to put print. And if they decide not to say hello, then this is a little bit different because it's going to ask another question. And that question will be exit. Okay, so yeah, we can do this. Okay, so now I'm going to put another one here. So I'm going to go here to shapes, arrow. If you decide not to exit, then it's going to go from here to over here. So I'm going to need an arrow that actually bends. So I'm going to select the shapes and go to this arrow right here. I'm going to start here and drag it all the way over there. And then that's going to be the yes. That's going to be the no. And then if yes, if it says exit, then I'm going to go ahead and exit. So I'm going to copy this, Here we go. And then I'm going to go to my shape and I'm going to select the bent arrow. And I'm going to drag that all the way over here. So now I have my logic here. And the logic is important because you can take this logic and actually use it in any application. You can take this logic and make a 3D application if you want. So when the application starts and to print hello, maybe a person kind of pulls up a sign and says hello. And then the user hits the exit button and then the screen explodes and that's the exit. So that's the reason for putting the logic out first. So you can know what your application is supposed to do before you even get to the interface. So now that we have the logic, let's go ahead and look at the UI, the user interface. So I'm going to go up here and create a new slide. So I'm in the home, create a new slide, and I'm going to go down here to blank slide. So I'm in this slide. So the interface is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to take this box here. This is going to be the screen. Then I'm going to go ahead and change the style of this a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to take another box here. This is going to be BTN. It's going to be click. It's going to say click. And then I'm going to take another one here. And I'm going to say exit. Now, according to my logic, I'm supposed to be able to print hello. So I got to see where that's going to be here. And I think what I can do is create another box. And that will be a message up here. And then I'm going to change the look of this just so it can seem more legitimate. And so this is right here is going to be my text box. So that's the second step. We created the logic and then we created a user interface. Now what we want to be able to do is go ahead and start naming these things with the proper convention. I'm going to use these arrows the same way I did over here. And what's going to make it easier if I could just go ahead and copy this right here and paste this here. And I'm going to say BTN click. That's going to be the name of that button. And just so you can know, I'm typing BTN instead of button 1 is because you want to name this button and all the items here so that way it's easier for you to code and easier for other coders to read it. So this is why we say BTN, which stands for button, and it starts with lowercase, which is the same as that's called camel casing. It makes it easier to read. And I'm going to name this right after the button that it's using. So when I'm reading this in code, I know for a fact that this is a button, and most likely the name of that button is click, or that's what it does. Okay, so I have that, and then I'm going to name this next button here. Drag that down. This should be BTN exit. All right, and then I got to name this right here. And that should be, this is not a button, this will be a label. So I'm going to put LBL message. Now that I have everything labeled, just so my team can know what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and add the arrows here. There we go. So now I have my documentation, I have my logic. Now the next thing we need to do is go to Visual Studio and start making our app based off of our documentation. Right now this video is at 10 minutes. I don't want it to go too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, well it's at 9 minutes. I'm going to stop this video and we're going to go ahead and go in Visual Studio in the next video. I'll see you then. All right, so welcome back. Here, what we're going to do is go ahead and open up Visual Studio. So, I'm going to open up my Visual Studio. I'm running Visual Studio 2019, but it's exactly the same on the other ones. It may look a little different, but if you don't have 2019, it's exactly the same. So when Visual Studio opens up, what you're going to get is this interface with get started or whatever. You'll see something that says create a new project somewhere in that opening one, and that's what you want to click. Once you click that, you're going to get a view of what projects you want to create. Now in Visual Studio, in all of them, you still want to always go change the language that you want to be able to use. In this video, we're using Visual Basic, so I'm going to scroll down here to Visual Basic and select that. Once I select the Visual Basic, you'll see all the Visual Basic templates pop up here. The one we're going to want to use is Forms. I think it's down here. Yeah, here it is. So here we have Windows Forms right there. I'm going to click that and I'm going to click Next. Then you just go ahead and name it. We're going to name this Hello World App. And then just put it where you want. If you're on a foreign computer, a computer that's not yours, you're going to want to run this on the computer, but then you're going to want to save it so that way, you can keep it. So what I normally do is I go ahead and save this onto the desktop of the computer. So that way I know exactly where it is and I can pull it off there when I'm done. Now I'll go ahead and hit create. Everything else is fine. So here what we're going to do is take a quick look at the interface here. So this is Visual Studio. What you should see on your left hand side are your tools, and if you don't see that, that means it's unpinned. So it'll look something like this. And even if it wasn't there, so I'm going to remove this. So let's say if it wasn't even over here, what you're going to do is go to View and go all the way down to Toolbox, and it'll pop up again. And then you can go ahead and pin it. This is where all your tools are going to be. All the tools you need to be able to create your application, all the objects, let's say. On the right hand side is your solution. So think of this as just your file structure. So if this was a file, this is what's in the file. So right now, here's our project file, and here's what's in that file. This project file is in a solution, which is just another big file, because a whole bunch of projects can fit in here. Right now, we only have one, so we don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm just going to scroll that down, and you can see here I have a Form 1. This Form 1 represents this form over here. Now this is the view we'll be working in mostly. This view will actually give us an indication of what we see and what's in code, if they correlate, that sort of thing. This tells us, or it tries to closely inform us of what the application is going to look like when we hit start, or when we execute it, or when we deploy it to our clients or whoever. Down here you have your output, and over here you have an error list. So when things go bad, if you put in bad code, it's going to show up down here. So let's get started. The first thing I need to do is check to see if my application is working. Yep, right when you first start, this is a working application. So I'm going to hit play. I'm just testing it to make sure that nothing's going wrong. You'll find that we do this a lot, that we test it as we're moving forward. So yeah, that works. And here's one thing you need to understand, that this window right here is separate from the application, even though the application is running it. So this will always pop up, and you'll see this stuff happening over here. This is just memory allocation stuff. Don't worry about that so much. CPU information. Right here is the form that our application is represented by, and over here is Visual Studio. So where people make the mistake is they click on here thinking they're clicking on the form, and they hide it back there. Right now you cannot code because it's still running. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can go down to the menu bar at the bottom and reopen that, or you can just hit stop here and it will stop the application from running. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. All right, so now let me go by what I have on my PowerPoint. And what do we have on the PowerPoint? Now, if you remember, we went logic, user interface, right? But now what we want to be able to do is go user interface, then the logic. So we have our logic here. Our user interface. So I'm just going to push this over to the side a little bit. All right, so I need a label. So I'm going to go over here and search for label. So step 1, I drag the label over here, or drag the object over here. Step 2, I name this label. So I'm going to go down here. When you click on an item, in the properties panel down here, you'll see all the elements that belong to that item. But I want to change the name of this and the text inside. So I'm going to go here under the design area, and I'm going to see the name over here. And what you should see is it says label in there. So I want to change this to something for the code to be able to recognize. And I remember we called this LBL message. So I'm going to do that same thing here. LBL message. All right, so I have that LBL message there. And now I want to change this inside because I don't want the application to start with label 1 in there. So I'm going to go ahead up here inside the text property. And I'm going to remove that. There we go. Now, it looks like it disappeared, but it didn't. If I highlight, if I drag and select, you can see it's still there. It's just nothing in it right now. So now, according to our documentation, I need 2 buttons. So I'm going to add a button here and a button here. I'm going to even those out. And my buttons were a little bit bigger, but I added both of them so I can select one and hold shift down and select the other one. And then I can drag both of them at the same time. If you can't get that, just go ahead and drag them individually. So the first thing I need to do is I need to change the name of these 2 buttons. The first button is click, as I can see here, and the second button is exit. So I'm going to go here. Step 1 is change the name down here. BTN click. And then change the text. That's what people see. Click. So that really doesn't matter in code. It just matters that people see it. Over here, change the name. BTN exit. And go up here. Change the text. Exit. So now, looks like our application is exactly like we expected. The only thing I do want to do is change the form name up here. So when I click on these buttons, I see the properties over here. So I'm going to click on this form, and I want to change that text property that it has up there. I'm going to change this to Hello World app. So looks like we're ready to go. Now before I even get to the logic, I'm going to hit play or start. I'm going to click, yep, nothing. I didn't expect anything except for all these things to show, which is fine. All right, so I'm going to close that down. Now I want to start coding, and I'm going to go by now the logic. So start, and it checks to see hello world. If someone presses hello world by pressing the button, we decided to use a button here. So in essence, they press the button, it says hello world. Okay. So in order to start coding here, I'm just going to double click on this button. And it's going to write this procedure here for me. Now, let's stop for a second and look at what this means. So let's break this down. In essence, this right here, so this code here, you want to see this code right here as a box. So if I had a box here, let me get a box. That's what this is. BTN click is a box, and it represents that button that we made. Now this right here is what goes inside the box. So if I had myself a little arrow here, I'm going to change the color. So this area right here, these two, this thing right here, this right here is one thing. Sender as object, that's one thing. And E as event argument is another thing. That goes inside the box. Now, on our form, so let's take this here. I'm going to shrink this a little bit since we know what that means, right? So on our form, we have a button. So just pretend like that's our form, and here's our button. All right. So on our form, we have this button, and this right here is connecting this to the button. Okay, so we now know what this means. So this is not cryptic. This right here connects this to that button. So when they click that button, let's say if I click that button, it's going to run this part, all of this right there. Now, when the button actually clicks, the button sends these two things with it. That's why this is required in there. And this is just the name of the function. We named our button, or the computer named our function, the same name as the button. But we could have named this anything. But it's better to name it the way it is named so that we know what it is doing. It is activating the button click. But again, that's just a name of the box. Okay. So basically, this box is called btn click underscore click. That's just a name. All right. So now what you want to do is you want to see this private sub part right here as the top part of the box, like this lid up here is the lid. And you want to see in sub as the bottom part of the box. So that's the floor of the box. So that's why when you do anything, you code in between those two. So that way, whatever's inside of there, the box will run. I gave an analogy before, almost like a jack in a box. Like when it's activated, whatever's in here pop out. So that's why you want to always make sure you have an in sub, and you want to make sure that this box is open and it's closed. And you can make sure also when you're dealing with the buttons that it handles something. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that that was completely understood. So that's what this is. So now in order for me to do anything, I need to be able to put it in this box for that button click to activate it. Now, what do I want to do? Okay. I want to, when I click on this, information goes into the message. So how do I get information into the message? Well, I remember when I selected my label, remember we took the text out of the label, and if I put something in here, you'll see the text pop back up in that label. Well, what that tells me is that these properties is what I want to activate in code. So all these properties I can access in code. So what I want you to understand is when I access things in code, it should be a little bit different because here I select the label, right? And you notice I select the label and I don't just start typing. I select the label and then I go over here and select the property. So let's look at how that's done in code. So I'm going to go over here and code LBL, and you notice what happens. Visual Studio starts to help me because it realizes, hey, you're looking for something that starts with LBL. And this is why we name our things or our objects the way we named them. So it's easier to find, and the computer knows kind of what we're talking about. So LBL message, and then, so I selected the message box, right? I selected it, just like going like that. That's what I just did in code. Now I want to select the property text. Okay, how do I do that? Well, instead of saying property, say dot. So label dot text. So that's how I select the property. So I would say label LBL message dot text. Awesome. Now that I selected it, okay, it's like me going over here and selecting it. Now what do I want to do? I want to type something in there. Well, in order to do that, in order to put anything in there, I just say equals. And if I were to do something like this, that's true. This does go in there. But you'll notice there's red all over this. It's because the computer doesn't know what this is. A string is what I want to put in there. But this is not a string because the computer only recognizes strings that are in between two quotes. So remember how this right here is what is going into the box, right? Well, label LBL message dot text, this property, just like these properties, this property only accepts text. So that's why when I do this, I have to make sure it's a string. It only accepts string, let's say. So I have to make sure it's a string by doing this. So now I have LBL message dot text equals whatever, right? But that's not our logic. Our logic says it's supposed to say hello world, all right? So I'm going to type hello world. Now I'm going to save, hit Control S, and I'm going to test that and hit start. So I remember I have to click the button, and there it is, hello world. Now I just want to finish my exit. So instead of typing all that down here, I'm going to go back to my menu and double click here. And over here, I'm going to type me.close. All right, and that's what we have. Now, I want to show you guys something. I'm going to mistype this, right? Like that. You'll see a little squiggly line red. That red squiggly line means your application cannot run if that's red. That means there's an error. And this is why we run it every time we do a significant change, because we want to know where the error is. Because let's say if I did this and I didn't know what was going on and I try to run it, and this is what's going to happen. This is going to pop up. So I don't know what I did. And now it's giving me these error codes down here, right? If I double click on the error code, it'll send me to the spot where it thinks it is. Now you see this cursor came here. It's saying there's something wrong with that. But let's say I still didn't know. Well, because I tried it right when the error started, I can hit Control Z till I get back to a point to where there is no error. And now I say, oh, okay. I see what happened, because as I hit Control Z, it undid it, and then the error left. And that's how you can troubleshoot yourself as you go. So now when I run this, I hit play or start. I can do that, and then I can hit exit. Awesome. Now let's say if I just wanted to say hello in another language. So I'm pretty much going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here. Well, actually, I don't want it to be all the way up there. I'm just going to show you guys just for the sake of doing it. I'm going to go ahead and drag a button here. Now, I'm not going to explain so much on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to say, let's say Japanese, Chinese. Let's say, what other one do I know? Okay, let's try Hindu. Okay, we'll just do those three, and then I'll come over here. First thing I need to do is I need to change the name. BTN. Okay, and now I need to change the text. Same thing over here. Change the text. All right, so I have those set with the names, and now all I need to do is hit the Japanese button, and I'm set to go, and that's going to be this exact same thing up here, down here, and instead of hello world, it's going to say konnichiwa. Go hit save, and I'm going to test it. So I'm not going to go to the other buttons. I'm just going to test this first. All right, and then perfect, and yes, and exit. And then I'm going to do the other one. So over here, double click, do the same thing down here. Me how run it. Yes, 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 and exit. And finally, I'm gonna do the last one. Say down here. That one's. I think that's right. Yes. Yes. Namaste. Start, and then try this. Perfect. So we did everything. This is how most projects should be done. We started off with our logic. Then we went to our interface and we named everything and we labeled everything. So now we basically did most of the hard work for this project. Then we went to Visual Studio and we went backwards. We did the user interface and then we added the code. And then we said, what if? What if we did blank, blank, blank? And so this is where our own creativity comes in, where we add more things. And then this is our version 1. We send this out to market, and then we make a version 2. So now that we have all this done, we want to go ahead and upload this to the canvas. So in the canvas, you'll go ahead and go to the course. In the canvas, in the student view, after you've completed all of these, so you have to go through all of these in order for this part to open up and finish the quiz. So once you finish all of that, you can go down here, and let's say if I was submitting this here to the canvas, right here I would go ahead and click on that, and what you're going to see is this submit assignment here. Now we're not necessarily going to take this document here and completely submit that to the canvas, because there's a different way I want you guys to think about doing this. Right now, you can go ahead and directly submit this assignment. If you're working on week 1, you can directly submit that directly to the assignment using Word or a Google Docs. However, for these, I'm not going to have you guys doing that. You're actually going to upload this to Google Drive and then submit it to the to the canvas. So in order for us to even work on submitting it to the canvas, we want to bring this to Google Docs. So how do we do that? Well, first we have to find where we saved our project. And if you remember, I saved mine on the desktop. As you can see, it's right here. And I can just go ahead and right click on this. I'll go to send to and compress zip. Now, it's not letting me do it right now because it's currently open, as you can see here. But what'll happen is it'll zip a folder here, and then I'll upload that to the Google Drive, and then I'll submit a link, and we'll do that in a second. But I want to show you another way to find your project if you don't know where it is. The other way to find your project is up in here in the Solutions panel, in the project. You're going to select the Solutions panel here. You're going to right click on that, and you're going to go all the way down here to Open Folder in File Explorer, and it's going to open up something like this to show you exactly where that project is. Once you have that folder, you can go ahead and close your project, and then you want to go back one. So right now I'm inside of the main folder here, and then I can go back one, and then I can find that folder right here. That's another way to find the folder. But here's my folder here. And so I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to send to. Let me see, make sure you guys can see that. So right click, scroll down, and send to. And then you'll see compress zip right here. I think you should be able to see it. Send to compress zip. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see this here. Okay, and you can see it has a zip on there, so that's what you're going to upload to the Google Drive for now. Now, because I don't think Google will allow you to upload this folder just like this. If it does, then don't really worry about zipping it. But I don't think it does, but you can try. If it does, then it's fine. But if it doesn't, just go ahead and zip it. Now that we have that zip file, we're going to go ahead and open up our Google Drive account. And everybody should actually have a Google Drive account, so that shouldn't be a real issue. And now inside this folder, you're going to go ahead and create a folder. Well, this folder actually should have a name, CS120, let's say. And inside that folder, you might want to do something like this, week 1. And inside of that, you might want to have the assignment. If that's the assignment. All right, so all I'm doing is right clicking and creating a new folder. So now I have a folder called CS120, week 1, hello world. Now all I need to do, and we can try it here. Let's see what happens. I'm going to drag the folder in here and see if Google takes it. So once I drag it in there, you see this folder here? You'll see it counting down here. And it's uploading that file there. And when it's done, now you can see how it said failed here. It says failed. Because it couldn't convert this particular file. So I'm not going to retry that, but I am going to go in here and see what it did bring in. But it brought in mostly everything that I need. So I don't really need it to worry about that file. I have my VB file here. So if I were to double click on that, it's going to ask me to download it. That's true, but it seems like I have everything here. So it seems like it worked fine. But if you're kind of skeptical and you're not sure, it'll be a good idea to go ahead and bring that zip file in there. And as you can see, there's 0 errors. So if you're working with a team, this might be the best way to go. And then you can just download this and open it up anywhere you want. Now, this is what I want to send to the canvas. So I want to send this whole folder. So I'm going to go back 1 folder. I'm going to select this folder. I'm going to right click it. And I'm going to go get shareable link. Now, once that happens, you're going to see this turn green. If I click on get shareable link again, you'll see it's still green, but this is what I want. And it says anyone with a link can view there and actually see what's happening. Hold on, let me refresh this. Looks like got stuck. All right, so that's one way I can make a shareable link. The other way is I can select this and then come over here and click on get shareable link. That's another way to do it. Now I can click in here, as you can see that's highlighted, and right click and copy that. I can also go to my share settings and make sure that anyone with a link can view. If that is not the case, then I won't be able to see anything that you put up in Canvas, and no one will be able to see what you put up in Canvas, and it probably won't get graded. So I'm going to hit copy that link, be done with that, and now all I need to do is go into my Canvas, and I'm going to submit the assignment. And once it submits the assignment, I can go File, Upload. So if the assignment lets you upload the file, you can directly upload your Visual Basic file there. But a lot of the assignments won't allow you to do this. It's going to be expecting a text entry. So I just click on the text entry part here, and I'm just going to paste it in there like that. And I'm going to hit Enter so this can turn to a link. And then I submit that assignment. Once I submit the assignment, you'll see it says submitted over here, submission details, and you'll see assignment successfully submitted. And that's how we do everything from beginning to end. How we come up with an idea for our application. We construct our application inside on paper or on PowerPoint or whatever. Then we take that documentation and then we go and we create our application. We write the code, we zip it, and we send it to Canvas for grading. If you guys have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe for any other updates, and make sure you share this video. All right, I'll see you guys next time.